I used to go to the psychologist. I would turn on the lights every time. After years, he said, I turn it off before you come in, so you can turn it on.
That's funny.
You need control, so I want to give it. You want to.
Right, Chevre, good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning today's 3 Prakim Rambam. Hilcha is Zechia Umatana, the laws of acquisition, the laws of gifts. We are already in the second day, Prakim Dalid, Hey, and Vav, beginning with Perek Revi'u, beginning with the 4th chapter. The 4th chapter is all about receiving a gift. It says that a 4th chapter has 14 halachas. It says that I'm a malacha aleph. Hamakabalas hamatana v'zachaba. Someone receives a gift. He acquired whatever the item is. The achar shabas liyadoi v'hu shoisek. After he received it, and while receiving it, he was silent, meaning he acquiesced. At a point later, Chazav Amar, he later declares, "Oh, I don't want this." Or Eina Makabel, I don't accept it. Or Harei Betela, this gift is nullified. Oisha Amar, or he says, "Oh, mum zed nida libas ba." I see a blemish in it. So there are 2 things over here. Number 1, does that mean that retroactively he never received the gift? The answer is no. Lo yomar klum. That statement doesn't have the ability to undo that which was already done. Meaning, just like the giver cannot retract after the kinyan was made, it belongs to the recipient. Even though he changed his mind, it's too late to retroactively undo it. However, but this gift, after you received it and said, I don't want it, you know what happens? Your statement is effective. Not to retroactively nullify it, but it makes it into something ownerless. Gavaldik. You don't have to say, this is ownerless. When you say regarding a gift, I don't want this, you are now going forward, making it ownerless. And therefore, there's a consequence. Whoever now will take halachic possession over it, will own it. However, unlike another case, in contrast, if you would have protested from the outset, was when someone puts a gift in my hand, and the moment I'm aware of it, I say, I don't want this. It's not that I made it ownerless. I never received the gift. It's not mine to be made ownerless by me. It continuously belongs to the gifter. If you remember, Rabbi Talbot shared over here many years ago that there was one year that one newspaper was trying to promote, the print, and they put in everyone's mailbox on Pesach some chametz gift. People freaked out. There's nothing to freak out. If you never want to receive it, just because they put it in your chutzner, you don't want it, it's not yours. If you wanted it at the moment, then you cannot retroactively change it, but you could make it hefker. Now, here we go. Here we are beginning with the laws of Zchiyam. In other words, guys, the giver asked, now that we established yesterday, let's just go back for a moment. Just like by sale, consent is not enough. You have to have a kinyan. Same thing by a gift. You have to do a kinyan. So if I want to gift you my coffee, which I don't, I want to keep my coffee. But if I were to want to gift that to you, then you have to make a kinyan. One kinyan would be for you to lift it. The you is not here. The giver is appointing a third party, asking a third party, do me a favor, make the kinyan hagba on behalf of the intended recipient. All right? When that person indeed makes the kinyan, for example, that if he makes mashicha, or if he receives a document, if it's regarding a transference of real estate, or if this third party who was only appointed by the giver, not by the recipient, is hachzik bakarka. So the rule is, the intended recipient will acquire it. And more than that, let's add, he doesn't even know that it was done on his behalf. So the giver cannot retract because a kinyan was made. But just like we learned in Halacha Aleph, that if while you receive the gift, you make a protest, you never acquire the gift, here you have to add another layer. Because here, at the moment of the kinyan, you didn't even know someone is making a kinyan for you. So you have the right to make a protest whenever you find out. Tomorrow, 50 years. Avala Makabul. Zelig, I think that if you commute, it will be helpful. Avala Makabul. Yodi Al Yoinam. Meaning, Imratza Makabul. Makabul means he doesn't have to do anything. It was already done. But Imratza Lo Yakabul. Because of the rule, Shazach and Adam Shalei Befanav. In other words, a positive acquisition can be made even without your consent. You don't need to know about it, only if it is positive for you. But to give you an obligation, you have to be makabel the obligation. If you want something, it's a schus. If you don't want something, having things that you don't want is a liability. Now let's compound together. In other words, now we're going to put together halacha beis and halacha aleph. It's gavaldik. If such a thing happened, in other words, the recipient did not appoint a shliach lekabbalah. The giver appointed someone to be mezake it for the recipient. Like in halacha aleph, he heard about it. He was quiet, and afterwards he shouts. Now let me tell you why this is different than in halacha aleph. See, in halacha aleph, if I'm the recipient and I received it, and I was quiet while I received it, never can my protesting later retroactively nullify it. I can only be mafked. Here, since let's say if I'm the recipient, I never received it. I just heard that someone received it for me. It's something so distant from me that my silence cannot be interpreted makabel. Like some things are so not shaykh to me, I don't have to make a protest on everything. So here it's different. So he was quiet when he heard it, and then he shouts and he says, "Eni makabel." So here it's already a suffix in the Gemara. It's a suffix im zesher sasek farotza. Do we interpret quiet like in halacha aleph? He really was makabel. Now that you're shouting, you're trying to retract, and as we learned, you cannot retract. You can only be mafkir, but you cannot retract it. Oi zesher sasek. He was quiet in the beginning. Why do I even have to make a protest? And how do I know that was his initial intent? Not acquiescing, not being makabelit, but I'm nothing. Now that he's shouting now, it's called his shouting now is megala, reveals that his original intent was he laughed at the whole thing. Now, what do you do with the suffix? That's the continuous rule by money. So the Rambam is going to give you various scenarios, just pointing out that there can be various muchsats, various moitzes. Let's see what happened. If a third party jumps in and they chop it, now guys, if he was makabelit, then he has the power to be mafkid, like in halacha aleph. If his sevicha is an act of hefkid, then now another person will own it. Because Shema makabel zachem. And now that he says any roitzeba, it's like in halacha aleph arei hefkira k'moshe b'yanu. And now that it's hefkir, v'zeh shekadeh v'lekachem and a hefkir zach. But the im zachah ha'ba'olam harishonim. But if the original owners chopped it back, miyad zeh shekadeh of zachabam, someone else chopped it, and then the original owners took it. Then again, you can't take it back from the original owners. Why? Because guys, if we say that means that it never left the ownership of the original. So it says, right? And therefore, and that's again the rule of Safek Hamoitzi Mechavede. Reuben wants to give Shimon with 100 dinner. Levi is the middle guy. Now, here we go. If he says the words, if Reuben, the gifter, says the words, acquire these on behalf of. What did we learn in Halacha base, guys? Or, Tain meyazul Shimon, give it. Ein yachol lachzer. Because, as we learned, even though Shimon, the recipient, can say, I don't want that. But if he won't say that, that's a kinyan. It's a kinyan now. But if he tells them, hoylech, guys, hoylech is not, I'm making you a shliach. I'm not making you a shliach like Kabbalah. Hoylech means, do me a favor, bring it to him. Bring it to Shimon. You know what it means, bring it to Shimon? It means until when you give it to Shimon, it's not Shimon's yet. If it's not Shimon's yet, it's still Reuven's. And therefore, Yachalach Sabai Achi Yagiam Eliyat Shimon. And now, in the case above, Levi actually took it. Right.
But Reuben is Shomer Chinam for that time.
You're talking about Levi.
Yeah.
L'chayr is a Shomer Chinam, but Shomer Aved is Machlekes Rabban Abi Yosef. Here he's Shliach. L'chayr is a the only reason why you were going to say Shomer Aved is Shomer Sachar, I'm just going back to that Gemara, is because he's doing the mitzvah. He's not doing a mitzvah. Right. Anyway, and he couldn't find the recipient, he has to give it back again, because since he was not zoichit on behalf of, it's still Reuven's. Now, let's go to all the cases. If Shimon is the intended recipient, dies b'chaya Reuven, which means, this is important, guys, if Shimon would have owned it already, then who would Levi give it to? To his heirs. Shimon doesn't own it. It was Hoylech. To whom? To Shimon. Shimon is not there. You can't do your shlichus. Take it back to Reuven. Bring it back to Reuven. And if Reuven died, give it back to Reuven's yash. Meis Reuven b'chaya Shimon. That's different. That's amazing. If Meis, guys, it doesn't yet belong to Shimon, but Shimon is alive. So the question is, guys, once a person dies, they cannot appoint a shliach halachically. Here, the question is, do you have to give it back to Reuven because the mishaleach is not living, or no? He asked to do something, go do it. Why? Not mikam shlichis, but elamam shemitzvah l'kaim divrei hameis. Amazing. Which is important. In other words, if Reuven would have been on his deathbed and he would have asked to Levi hoylech, the words of a shchidmera is like a king, and there's no king in here. It's not that there is a king in. Nevertheless, the kaim is the concept is mitzvah l'kaim. Okay. This is another key over here. In other words, if this mayor would have not been biyodei shel shliach, if he would have returned it to Reuven's heirs, are the heirs of Reuven chayiv to give it to Shimon? I don't know. If the answer is mitzvah l'kaim divrei hameis, and the Rambam would have written shari hameya biyodei shel shliach hadayin. So that's another layer here. It has to do with it. It's in his hands. Huh?
Where is he getting it?
What do you mean? No, the Shimon is alive. The recipient is alive. Okay, interesting. Let's go. The Zoicha, guys, the Zoicha means the guy making the kinyan. The guy making the kinyan is either the recipient or halacha beis, or the person who was, so to say, self-appointed to represent the recipient. He has to be a gadol. He has to have a das. Echadisha. Man or woman, married woman, an eved, even an eved and a shivcha. Because even though the eved, the avodim kananim, the avodim of a yid, aval agoye in a zoicha. A guy can never be a shliach. And by the way, parenthetically, we paskin the hilchas Shabbos l'chumra yesh shlichus la'akom l'chumra, but that's a chumra. Really, there's no shlichus la'akom. Kach in zoicha liYisrael. Uchashem she'ein Yisrael maser shliach l'goy kach ein zoicha l'goy. That's important. In other words, the meshaleach. Just remember, the mashaleach and the shliach both have to be b'nei bris. That's the rules of shlichus. Halacha is zayin. Cotton shenoisen litzror v'zarker. So what are we talking about? We're talking about a miner who has enough seichel to know that when you get a stone that you can throw away, when you get a nut you keep. America, a nut is like a stone. A nut you throw away, a candy you keep, whatever. He knows how to, it's called bida, to be mafchen between what the child thinks to be good, between the child thinks to be insignificant. So then, guys, listen to this. That cotton is old enough. Guys, remember this. I know we just learned Tilchas Mechira. When it comes to a gift, that Rambam holds that a cotton can acquire something for himself b'matana midoiraisa. Generally, but I want to add another nuance. In the sugi of Gittin, Tikkun Olam, there are certain times that a cotton midrabanan will be zoicha la'chedim. Remember that. When your father sends, that was a whole thing, when you send your son to the store, which was what everyone did. That's not child labor. That's just everyone doing their chore. They go to a store and they pick up stuff on behalf of the tata. No one can take it from the minor. That's maybe they're taking oil. Anyways, coming back over. Midoraisa, cotton can be zeicher for himself. And that's very unlike Hilchas Mechira. Just remember, Mechira, we learned that a cotton, remember that the whole sugya. Can a cotton affect the kinyan? Midoraisa, we said no, cannot do Mechira. Not noisa. We learned that Midrabanan also, that metaltal and he could. Midoraisa, by selling and buying, he cannot affect the kinyan. By matana, he could be makabel. These are the good klal to remember. The Rambam passes. A cotton could make a kinyan and therefore own it. Another gewaltige din. You need to have for the guy that making the kinyan has to be a bendas. So it's amazing. So if you want to give something to a shaitan, you can do it. Do it through someone else. If the person who lifts it on behalf of the shaitan is a bendas, the shaitan will own it midorais. Aval acheresh, zoich la'atzmai, as we learned in Nechas Gezelam. Okay.
That bendas needs to be his apotropos of the shaitan, or any bendas can act on his behalf.
The bendas has to be that I'm a gadol bendas. Gadol bendas. Very important. Gadol bendas. And a cotton bendas lahafchen bein stone to this can be zoiche from self midorais. Let's go back. Allah eches. Zachan lekotton. Now again, just like I can acquire something for a shaita, even though a shaita cannot affect the kinyan. So you see, the ikir is not the owner. The ikir is who's making the kinyan. So let's go with that logic. You can be zoiche on behalf of a cotton, even if he's only 1 day old. And you can be zeicher legadol. Again, bein b'fanav, bein shaloi b'fanav, as we learned in halacha beis. Another rule, guys, v'chatzeiroi shel adam koinoloi shaloi midatoi afa pisha eino oimet sham. Let me just add the words that's by a chatzar mishtameres. Kivin shegia matar lechatzeiroi ki'ilu zachaloi acher. Oh, it's chatzar has that power. When the courtyard is safeguarded, however that's defined. Like a field is normally not encircled with mechitzas. It's open. That's the pasha. In other words, an animal can walk in, an animal can walk out. Your little kid can walk in, there's not protected. Or your ruin, the definition of a ruin is that a house that the walls are falling down. Oh, there's too many breaches. And then it also works, but you have to be standing there. As long as the daladamis is not in the Rishus Harabim proper, it's either the simta right off. We would call that a sidewalk or a side street, or b'tzidei Rishus Harabim, or b'chatzer she'ein loy ba'alim, aval b'Rishus Harabim, or b'stei chaveiroi ein zoich ad shetegia matana liyad. Now, what about a ketana? So I guess a chatzer functions mitzad shlichus. We just had this before in Hilchas Mechira. That's by a man. There's gender related. The ketana tzizko lachatzeira v'arba amas shelo. It's amazing. Why is that? Because the limud in the Torah from where we learn that by a girl, her property can acquire it from her is from the din of yada. Masha'enkin by a guy, it's learned from the din of shlichus. And here's the word, guys. You can only make a shliach when you're an adult, and you have a hand even when you're a minor. That's a big difference. Just like the Rambam says that if the male cotton, if he picks it up himself for him, he's kind of midoraisa. A cotton has a yad midoraisa to make a king. A cotton cannot appoint a shliach. So chatzir is because it's like your shliach or inside your yad from psukim. By man, shlichas. By women, yada. So a chatzir of a cotton cannot acquire it for a cotton. A chatzir of a katana can acquire it for her. Aval a cotton ain't zeh acha to give matana liyadai. Oy she's kavay acher. Gewaldik. Halacha yud. These are big rules. Hamatana can get. Sounds funny, right? Hamatana can get. Now 1 second. Yeah, God forbid. All right. The person who's in a bad marriage says, yeah, the gift, I need a gift. But honey, what do I want to get? The woman tells the husband tells his wife, what can I get you for your birthday? I'll get you anything you want. It can be expensive. She says, I want a divorce. He says, no, that I can't afford. It's too much. Okay, so I'm telling again. So here we go. Now we're learning a din. This din is called Mila Loy Mimsir L'Shliach. So we're learning about shlichus. It's a good rule. Mila means that if you cannot give over words to a shliach. What do I mean by that? Says the Rambam. She'ein adam yachal limser devarim l'shliach ketzad. If a person tells 3, and the Rambam is going to say he doesn't only mean 3. 3 means a beis din, 2 means eidim. We'll see. Doesn't matter to how many people. Imru leploini veleploini sheyichdimu v'yachdimu b'shtar matana v'tinei leploini. Huge difference. I can tell people, if I own something, I can tell people, write the document of gift and give it to that person. I told them to write it and to give it. What was their shlichus? To do something, to write it and to give it. I cannot tell you, or even a beis din, you guys tell so-and-so to write it and to give it. Because your part is not to do something. I'm only giving you over the shlichus of sharing my words. Mili loy mimser l'shliach. Ein zaklum. Ve'im amru lo oisam ha'edim v'chasva v'nasul ha'mekabel. And if even though they did it, loy kana. In other words, even though the recipient has a document, who empowers the document? The owner. The owner did not do it properly. And it's not about a beis din, it's about edim. Write and sign. You know what they can do? They can write and sign. They can write and sign. You know what they cannot do? They cannot instruct to a sofer lichtayv. I want to tell you something else. If I tell them to write and sign and to give, and they wrote it and they signed it and they appointed someone else to give it, that they could do many times. That's different. Because here they're giving over an action to someone else. The words is what cannot be given over to a shliach. I gave. I'm documenting what I did. I gave it to him. It's his. All of these expressions, these are good documents of a gift. But you know what? You cannot write in the document. I will give it to him. Like I'm documenting my commitment. That I said those words. Then in other words, even though I use the words future, guys, doesn't matter. It's emes. Because give it to him, and I told the Adam to write it and to give it, so that now it's no longer future. They're just writing that when I told the Adam to write it, I was speaking future tense because it wasn't written yet. That's why it works. Which is all why the future tense is emes. But really, the document should be about the present. It meant that. It only said future because I commanded them prior to them doing it. If I say I gave, I'm telling you a fact. I gave this field to that person, and the recipient says, "You never gave it to me. You never gave it to me." So right, and therefore, guys, if chosheshin, what do we say? We say that the field is becheskas de mekabel. Not aladayachet. I'm saying I gave it to you, and the recipient says, "No, you never wrote it and gave it to me." If we're speaking about a gift, we say the rule, and therefore there was no gift, and therefore the giver eats the papers. But the son is denying it. So now there is a doubt what to do. And here in this doubt, you leave the papers in the hands of a third party. You're waiting maybe for Adam to come, right? You need to have someone to come and testify that, let's say, a document of gift was given to the father. The recipient of the gift that says, "Hey, I know you gave it to me. You gave it to me to be your guardian, to be a custodian." He says, or the rule will always be the recipient's words will be kayamin Nishba al zeh shvuas eses. Now, what's the shvuas eses that has to be made over here? I'll tell you what the shvuah says. The shvuah says is only, Dovi, if this makabel matana owes money. This is what's happening. And the creditor give money, chanished, he chapped his gift. The makabel matana is saying, no, I never received this gift. It was ba'inus, it was batos. That's where you have to have a shvuah. That's not if it's just between the giver and the receiver, the word is the receiver who says, I never got it from you. There's no gift. Not to swear. Here you're swearing because there's a third party involved. The third party is going to lose if what you're saying is true. So you have to take an oath. That's the case. In the final halachim, right? That's where we're up to. Halacha Yudal. Ton hanasan ba'omer. Fakir shoymer atoleh. Or if the giver says, Shaloi midati nesatiya, or the giver says, Gizeli biyatcha, and the holder, the mekabel says, no, atonasatali.
Sounds like a more frequent type of case.
Then, since he is a muchzak, nishba hamakabel shvos heses v'nifta, then he's correct. Yeah. Normally people don't swear that it's not theirs. Normally people are swearing, the mine, me. Okay.
So the guy that's the watchman or
whoever has the chazaka now, whoever has the chazaka. Yeah, because he's the muhsak and he's kreifet hakel.
Well, he's the muhsak now, but we know the muhsak was before.
Yeah, I would say more than that. I'm just curious. I'm just thinking: is this what about karka? If it's karka, do we say einish boin ala karkois? I think so. I think this is not by karka, or maybe it doesn't even apply here. Okay. No. So it says, I'm reading in the bottom here from Rabbi Stein, he brings from the Shulchan Aruch that even by karka, since they're challenging whether it was a gift, whether it was not a gift, only after he was there for 3 years, and then he has a chazaka, will we apply the rule that Einish Bain al Karkois. Okay, very good. Perek Chamishi is the short chapter, and then the 6th chapter today is going to be lang. But let's go. Perek Chamishi is about how to write a document of a gift. Guys, he said there's one big klal gadol in this Perek. In this Perek, we have 9 halachas. You don't wait 1 minute just to hear the beginning of this. This is a big thing. Halach aleph, hanois and matana. Whenever someone gives a gift, whether the gifter is healthy, whether the gifter is ill, there's one nekuda. Tzarech shetia geluya u'meforsames. The gift must be made publicly. The gift must be made publicly, guys. Which means, let's go on there, what cannot be done. If someone tells Aiden, kisvu baseiser, if he says clearly, write this, but baseiser, in hiding, and give it to him, it has no validity. Why? Because we suspect that they're conspiring together, they're acting deceitfully. A very simple thing. Imagine, God forbid, a gunner. Let's say Reuven wants to sell the field to someone who wants to pay for it. And he's going to make a lot of money, but he wants to keep the field. So what will Reuven do? What could Reuven do? Reuven can write a gift document, baseise, so that other guy will never know about it. He writes the gift document prior to the sale. Then he sells, he gets the money. Then Shimon goes and he takes that field. He goes to Beis Din and he tells Beis Din that, no, he sold it to you. He gave it to me before. It's mine already. It wasn't his to sell. He'll get the field with that. And Reuven will disappear and Reuven will split the money with Shimon. No, it's just a gift must be done in a public way. That's the whole Perek.
We have a similar law like this in Israel with seniors that give real estate. They're not family member.
Love it. Yeah, it's true. That's another note. When people get older, people take advantage of them. That's what happens. They take advantage of them. Okay, halacha base. People take advantage of younger people also, but no, younger people have this koyach to fight the bandits. When you get older, you just leave me, let me live. Give me a coffee and I'm good. I'll sell you my house. Gesundheit. Halacha base. Lefikach. Okay, that good. Kol shtar matnes karka. She'ein kosev boy. That for Omar lonu pleni hanoisim. This is the way to formulate a document. Ideally, shvu b'shvakim u'berachayvos. Sit down. We're writing the document in a public place. The guy says, sit in a shuk, sit in the street, and write a matana galuyim for semes. Something that expresses that he was told to do it in public, even though it doesn't say that it was done in hiding. We are choishish, it was done in hiding. Choishish in shema matana mustaterasi. And therefore, v'loy zocha makabel. Now, if there were two deeds recording a gift regarding the same son, this guy is busy. The original owner, he's getting his money's worth. He's giving it to two different people. We just said that a gift that's done misuteres, or even if nothing was written halachically, it's not valid, which means he still owns it. So you would think that the second gift is good, right? So indeed, like we said, it's not that they wrote in the document that he told the Adam beseisid. No, he said nothing. We already said that you have to write in every gift document that this was done in a public forum, and therefore the first gift is 0, and therefore the second guy kana. Now, Kvar Beyanu, the Rambam is going back to Hilchas Mechida, that anyone who issues a protest, remember that, and then he makes a sale. So if you remember that if you issue a protest that you are being coerced, and the Eidim have to know independently that you are being coerced, that moidah will nullify future sales. Now, there's a big difference between sales and a gift. I'll tell you the difference. You can only be mevatel a sale if you are under coercion. By a matana, even if I'm not being coerced, if I make a declaration, the gift that I'm going to give tomorrow, I don't mean, even though I gave it not under duress, it would also have the power to be mevatel.
So how do you mevatel that bittul?
And so we learned you can make a medoy. We learned that in Hilchas Mechida. Just all the other dinim are the same. And here, more than by Mechida, in other words, the guy was not forced to give it against his will. Still, the gift will not be a gift. And always matanasa. You understand? By Mechida, since you're getting money, getting money makes you want. To counter the getting money, there has to be an oinus to be mavatal the Mechida. By matana, you're not getting anything. Now comes a big chiddush. And this will really touch upon the next chapter that we're going to learn today. There's a rule and there's an exception. The rule is, guys, devarim shebelev einam devarim. That's the rule. You know what the exception is? Chazal use the words umdana. On one hand, what you have in your heart doesn't do anything. What did you say? What did you do? That's what counts. On the other hand, there are certain scenarios that the sages understand that we can presume this was what happened. Once you have the numdana, then it will have an effect. 1 second. The sale will become nullified. For example, now, umdana itself, just a umdana itself that you did not intend is not enough. You have to have an umdana and you have to have something else that will say. 1 second. Is this the case? You gave a matana mesuteres. What did we learn in Allah Gimel? That if you gave two, the first one was mesuteres and the second one was good, the second one is valid. Not in this case. Here, both will be betelis. Was when you have an umdana that you didn't want to make the second sale. So compounded with, and you need both factors. And not only did you not want to do it, but you also wrote a gift prior. That gift prior becomes like a moidah, even though you didn't make a moidah.
So why Rambam doesn't assume the same logic here, by Gimel? Because there's no umdana, you didn't want the second one. You need to have two factors. I mean, if not only did you write a misuteres, then I'm just going to give it a mashal. But by the second gift, there was a chazal's umdana, you didn't want to do it. When you have, even though you wrote a good document and you did not make a moidah, when you have an umdana that you didn't want, and you wrote a document that says it, they are like a dog. And that's the story. Halacha hey. And she tells the man, oh, you want to marry me? That's fine. I don't understand that. Just marry him and automatically. But I don't know, out of a different culture. You want me to, she tells the man, marry me, write the document, everything you own belongs to me, then I'll marry you.
Yeah, but she only gets half. She wants it all.
She wants it all. When she's
she
married,
just
she gets it
got
all. Nah, she gets it all. If she gets divorced, she gets half in LA. When she's married, she gets it all. Shama b'nai hagadol. Now this guy has the older son, and he began to shout, "Dad, what are you doing? You're giving her? Who is she? Right? Also, and you're leaving me. Such a real thing. So what did this guy do? Now listen.
He's getting excited.
So what does he do? He tells Adam, do me a favor. Now, he has a problem, the father, because if he's going to give it all to his son prior to the marriage, she's going to find out about it. I can marry him. So he tells the witnesses clearly, go, hide, and write a document to my son. All of my belongings is my son's. And then, that's called a matan, the seser, right? Then he writes to her, a good nefresemes, kasav lazu, kol nechasav v'nusah. That's called an umdana. The umdana is that this guy did not want to give it to her. He had no breder. He wanted to marry her. The guy is a winner. The winner takes it all. That's it. Why? That's the way that Rambam uses it.
What if he kept a small amount?
That's it. It ruins everything. One second.
Deal, right?
I don't think so.
If he gave his son everything except for one small house, then he makes it.
We're going to have, your question is good because we're going to have a lot in the third chapter about keeping back, or in this or the next. I don't know here. It's good. Leave it on. What did he show? The fact that he wrote a document that is giving it to a son, he's showing he doesn't want to give it to her. Alpha P, the first document is not valid because it's misuperes. It's when you have a umdana and you got the two documents, it's like a maidah. Wait, is
the marriage is binding? The marriage is binding?
In other words, can she claim mekachtos? I married you to get the ring. What happens if a guy gives an engagement ring, it's a fake ring? Can she claim mekachtos? I don't know. I married you and this. If this is not a good stone, I never would have married you.
Good question.
I don't think it's a good question.
Is it married?
Because every marriage you can say mekachtos. I didn't marry you. I married someone in your body, but someone else. I don't know.
But she said, I will marry you. I will not marry you unless you write.
She said that. I think it's a big difference whether she says it during the kedushin. I think, Kevin, if she says it during the kedushin, because halachically you can make conditions. The guy says, "Harei nekudesh is li betabazo," and she says, "No, loy betabazo, bekol nechasecha." Then I'm married to you, not with this ring that the guy's asking whether it's worth a pruta. Then it won't be a marriage. But if they make agreements prior, kasha, leave it open. You have to be very careful to nullify a marriage based on I thought, because the emes is everyone thought, but God's thinking is the one that counts. Okay, halacha. You have two documents that were written on the same day, and they were written about the same field. Again, a busy guy, he's selling his field twice, whether it's a mecha, whether it's a matan. Now, guys, like this, a couple of things. I want to just add something by heart that Rambam writes in a little bit, in a couple of lines from now. What we have witnesses, and I know that Rambam already wrote that the shtar is one of the means of making a kinyan, and the edom are edei bitter. But I want you to know that edei mesira are more important than the edei chasima throughout. And once you have edei mesira, you can find out from those edom which document was given first. Obviously, this case is that there are no edei mesira. You have edom in the document. They were not there when he gave it. They're written on the same day. The point will be is that whoever got it first will own it, right? How would you know who got it first? So if they wrote the sha'os, machai, then with the document that has the earlier hours, but the im ein darkam lichlef sha'os, and it's all the same day. So this is another thing. I don't think we ever learned this before in the Rambam, but this is a very important concept, however much it's applied. It's called Shuma de Daina. That's the words of the Gemara. In other words, the judges have a certain amount of discretion. That halacha is not going to tell you whether it's this or that. They have to look into it.
It's not yachloiku either.
Not yachloiku. Here, I know the Shuma de Daina will be is, Pashat, who is the giver closer with? That's what they say. That's what they're going to do. If they, again, how do you know the truth of the truth? I don't know. But according to the Dayanim's assessment, let's say the two recipients, Reuven and Shimon, the Noisen is a bigger chaver to Reuven. They're going to pass and it goes to Reuven. That'll be a.
It's not who is more chashiv.
No. No. It's about.
2 months on the same day. It's not a red flag.
It's a big red flag. The guy's a chushta person. Doesn't matter. And now, call me shadat and noitel amos. It's about kiruv adas, Danny. Now you can say, I want to take back what I said. Yeah, I think that certain people that are covet type of people that want to get covet. That's how you know. That means that they're machshav covet. Maybe whichever recipient is someone to whom you would want to give more covet. Could be. That's also a way of assessing. Some people don't care to get covet. That means that covet doesn't do anything for them. Friendship. You have to figure out. You have to look for kiruv adas. How to determine what creates kiruv adas? You need to have a shuman. You need to have a good psychologist. Halacha is zayin. Amed v'ramamurim means that theoretically it's about who got it first. It's about who got it first, not about the shuman dayan. B'shtar she'ein b'kinyan. In other words, if the giving of the document is the kinyan, then you say whoever got the document will acquire it first. But you should know that there are many times that a kinyan is made, a kinyan sudir. The document is only attesting to the kinyan. So then who would own it? The person with whom the kinyan was made first. The document is the kinyan. In other words, if they wrote in the document vikonina, if like we had in the ksuba, if once you write in the document vikonina, so what? The document went into effect not by giving the document. It went into effect from when there was a kinyan. Then you have to also find out then and call hakosher because only a kinyan zacham. And here a kinyan is normally made in front of Adam. So see if you could yishalu Adam. Here you don't need Adam Asiri, you need Adam Chasima. You know, you were there like in a ksuba. The Adam that signed the ksuba many times, they're not even by the chuppah. You ask them what time did it happen. We're going back to the beginning, right? I mentioned. If you had Adam Asira, then you can ask the Adam Asira. It's whatever affected the kinyan, whichever one did had happen first, that document is valid. Now another case. It's from the same giver Yakir to the same recipient, but it's two different times. Now, what's the issue? If the recipient got a second document, the second document was mavatal the first. If not, why would he even take a second document? Why do I care if the first or the second is valid? I'll tell you why I care. Because from when this guy owns the field, and onwards, let's say if after he owns the field, the giver took a loan, that field is not liened anymore. So it's a big nafkamina to know from what date did he acquire it. So we want to know whether the second document, so to say, the fact that there is, not in the hands of the giver, in the hands of the makabel, zaraya, that for some reason the first document was nullified, or not. Maybe we say that the first document makes the kinyan. There's a reason why he made a second document. And it's going to give a bunch of reasons. Sometimes it's for the betterment of the lekeach. There's a reason why a lekeach would benefit, but not that he's redoing, he's just adding something. So let's read it inside. Another one a matana, either way. We don't say that it nullified it. No, it's the gift is was when you get a gift is a gift, but if something happens and it's taken away from you, you're done. If you buy something, the recipient gets more power. So he added to the power. And even if in the second document you don't have befedish that the seller, kaviyachol, is being mekabel achrayis, we already learned achrayis tol sefer, you never even need to write it. Also in the other direction, then we say Koda Hasada Bisman Rishon. Why did you add a matana? It was a sale. What's the problem with the sale, Danny? What's the weakness? That if a neighbor of this property were to come to the lekeach and say that the moicher was not allowed to sell it to you because I'm the bar metzra, he'll have to give you your money, but he'll take the field. By a matana, there's no din in the bar metzra. No, if there's some added value to the lekeach by the second document, then you interpret the fact that there is a second document, not because the first one is not valid, but he's adding to the schus. However, had the final halacha test. Oh, you stay with matana. So in other words, that alone, there's nothing being added. Still, it could be. If the second document adds any fact, whatever that is, any fact, then why did we use the same logic? But here's the key. If it's mamish two identical documents, then we say bitul ashtar hasheni sedishin. And again, lamaynaf gemina that the ein lo yachrayis elam isman sheni. And lefikach, another deep. Now, by this goes two ways. He has to give back to the giver or to the seller. Now that we clarified that the recipient is only a recipient from the second document, if the day tax due was in between the first and the second, who owes the taxes? The first owner. It's both ways. The second is a siman that the first one is not valid. Okay, today's final chapter, Perek Shishi, is a huge chapter. And again, we mentioned these words in middle of Perek Chamishi. Guys, remember, Dvarim Shabalev Einam Dvarim. This is a big cloud. What you had in your heart normally won't have a standing, at least not on a human basis, because we don't know what's in your heart. On the other hand, and this Perek is about the other hand, that there's something called umdana, or oimdin datoi. Chazal have that power. We don't have that power. This is not a perhaps. The Chazal determined that this is what the premise was based on, and that will affect the kinyan, as if it was verbalized. Wow. So we're going to learn Dine Umdana by gifts. It's Mamash Moededik, Perek Shishi. That's today's big chapter. Has 24 halachas, beginning with halacha. We always have to assess the intent of the giver. Meaning, if there are some situations that indicate soif data means his deep, his like rotzing primi. It's called soif data. You know why it's good word? Because das al pi chasidus, right? Das is in the kavam soy. So other people that have keser chachma bina. We for us keser is above ishtalshlus, but soif data means soif up. Where does das go into? Into keser. What's keser? Tiny and rotzen. It's your rotzen. Your intent. Then again, even though again the klal is dvarim shabalev. No. Here we're going to say oisim al pi ha'im, and we will act according to the intent. Even though the intent was not verbalized, for example, like we learned in the previous chapter about a guy who was getting married. There, by the way, it wasn't enough. You needed to have also the two documents for ayin sham. Here, this is the example. A guy is traveling. Someone's son traveled. Rahman al-Islan, and the father hears that his son passed away. People, when they get older and wiser and they understand marbe nechasim, marbe daiga, we're still young and we don't understand that. Fine. But when we get older, who needs all that? You know what you need it for? For your kids. And therefore, it happens often that when people, look, all these billionaires today, to their merit, never did God have human beings that gave so much tzedakah. I don't care, l'shmash or l'shma, they're giving billions of dollars of tzedakah because they say that it's for my kids. They don't even want for the kids to have billions. It's not healthy for them. All these wealthy people, if normal people like us, we don't yet have the billions. Person has assets for his kids. That's the way a Jew should think, not for me. It's not who needs it. If you could, minimize, not maximize. You have kids, you have to hold on all the assets for them. And if a person hears that a son passed away, and the word Galuya is based on what we learned in the previous chapter. That's an umdana. This guy gave everything away because he was hit by this tragedy, and he came to the conclusion, I don't need the whole Olam Hazeh. There's no one. It's for no one. What did Avraham Avinu tell Hashem? That If I'm not going to have a kid, like who needs anything? And then, thank God, the Shmuel was wrong. Guys, ein matanose kayemes. Because now here's what the Gabe mentioned in the previous chapter. Here the Rambam writes about this a lot now. All of that is only if he gave everything away. The guy owned 100 houses and he kept for himself a little dilapidated apartment. Not in LA, in Miami. And worth garnished. Even though they overcharged. The fika over there, not over here. Here it's taka worth it. So the fika, im shem lechasim kol shuhu ben karka ben metaltalin den matanose kayemes. Because why would the guy leave anything? The guy left something for his kid. Some people feel, I don't want to spoil my kids. Can I say something? Spoil your kids. Halacha beis. Now, let's go further. If a guy chooses one son from all these sons, and here, if you like it or not, some of it was going to be banned soon of these halachas. There's a big difference between sons and daughters. Does that change because of culture? I don't know. I don't think so. Here we go. Whether the father was bari or whether he was a shchivmira, it's one amongst others. There's an umdana. You know what the umdana is? A father is not going to give everything to one son away from the other sons. You know what he must have meant? He wants for that son to be the guy in charge, the apitropos. That's all he meant. Well, you're so el apitropos. No, he's going to inherit ke'echad me'echad. Why? The father said, he's saying, give a gift to, Yaakov said to Reuven. Not, the father was afraid. No one listens to Reuven. This Ben, the big brothers, and this baby is born to, Yalad Zukonim, Ben Zukonim. Give him chashivus, he's the apotropos. But again, the im shir kol shuhu, if the father held back, then karka even only metaltalin, then we understand that why did the father keep something back? Because the father wanted for Dinei Yerusha to be applied to that little, and whatever he wrote as a gift, just like a gift. That we say that's the umdan adas. If he had many sons and he gave a gift, all his nachasim to one of them. Can you tell me, guys? I want you to tell me what do you mean lebein ben? If it's lebein ben, I'm not going to get it anyhow. So it must be, guys. Listen, that man had a few sons. Let's say Yaakov had Reuven and Shimon. Shimon had daughters. Shimon passed away. Yaakov is still living. When Yaakov passes away, right? So then the daughters, when they have no brothers, they are in the place of Shimon. Shimon is a son, so the daughters will inherit together with Reuven. That's the case over here. That must be that. No, it's when there are daughters that are going to be Yodesh, and he is writing it only for the son, or even if there's only daughters, which again, when there's only daughters, all of them will take their chelik, and he's writing it labas bein habanais. Or when it comes to any other heirs, sometimes a person doesn't have sons. The fact is that they're brothers or whatever it is. Dear, there's no umdana. If he wrote a gift prior to passing, that matan is kaya. We only say that bein ben habanis. Halacha dal. Even if he made a kinyan. Now, by the way, a shchimina, you can say it doesn't have to make a kinyan. Why did he make a kinyan? Like to really authenticate what he's saying. Loi asa as, he meant only that she should be the apitrup al yarshav. He wanted his sons to honor her. Bein shahayo yarshav banav mimena, doesn't make a difference. Oy ma'acheres was even in a case, right? It's if she's the mother, if she's the stepmother, or I'll tell you more. Forget about that. The guy has no sons. His yarshim are his brothers. When a guy gives everything to his wife, the umdana is she's the apitropos. All of that is only when he gave everything away. That's when you gave everything away. Im shir kol shahu ben karka metaltalin, then konos she acquired kol shekosavlo. That what? I'm going back to the beginning of Allah Dalid, that she does not inherit, she does not get it. I mean, she doesn't acquire it as a matana. He only meant to make her the apitropos. That is if they were married with nesuyim. That is what he meant. Look at the irony here. But if they are only halachically engaged, or they were married, now she's divorced, they're even It's just to appreciate this, guys. Not because he's not close, he divorced her. Not about closeness. It's about the den das. Did he mean to give it to her? Did he mean to make it her an
But
apitros?
if she's his wife, how is she kind of the estate while she's still married? And once he's dead, he can't give it anymore. So what's the actual mechanics of it?
So if I'm not mistaken, when a man gives a gift to his wife, she dafke is koinet. When you buy your wife a ring, she dafke is koinet. It was when we learned a little bit yesterday about a third party needing to know how to verbalize a gift to someone else's wife, but often that the husband should not get, that's different.
Right.
But I think when a man gives a gift to his wife, he's giving it to her. One thing is for sure, it has to be done in a way where she's koinet, koidem misa, because right. Very good. Now, halacha. He's a bigger chiddush. No, he's involving two people. He's giving everything away to one of his sons and to any other person. What did we say? That by the sons, he didn't mean a gift. He meant an apitropos. To this guy, to the other, he meant a gift. So do you say that one interprets the other? We don't say that. The other person is taka kind of half of the nachas. And b'hanisha rachatzi lebanov, not to this guy. We say that's a bigger chiddush. Halacha zeh. Chaim in kosav kol nechasav l'ishtoi la'acher, same thing, half and half. So again, here it's harder. It's a bigger chiddush to say that to the wife he only meant an apotropos, because to the acher he did not mean that. Like, why don't we interpret, since la'acher is a gift to the wife, we don't say that. Ha'acher taka kona merza, and the woman, the wife minasuya, is apotropa ala merza. Halacha ches. Kol isham shekanos kol nichse bailo b'matana. There's a rule. However that works, whenever he gave her everything, ibda ksuvasa v'tzikara. And as we'll see in a moment, just to make that clear, okay, we'll see. Let's read it inside. Lefika im yotza olav shtar chayv and v'holchu kol anachasim b'chayv shekana mamatana. Obviously, the chayv has to be before the gift, because that they will lean first to the gift. Tishoyed he b'loy klum. V'loy tikach b'ksuvasa shekadma hachayv. Why? She'umden data who? That's another umda hadas in that side. That in the hana that she gets by finding out that her husband gave her b'matana everything that he owns. Ibda kol schus sheyesh b'nachasim. But she has this matana. It turns out later that this matana was linked to a chayv. So if she loses the matana, she has nothing. I want to add a layer to that, but let's read another halacha. Halacha test. Chaim hakoysev kol nechasev laban. Okay. Hakoysev kol nechasev labanov. Bein zchanim bein nekevos. Bein bari bein shchivina. And he included in that gift his wife, the cost of leishta imohen, not an equal share, any amount of karka. Any amount of karka. It means he made his wife like his sons. And halachically, she's not like his sons. So that's a tremendous amount of valuating his wife. And the concept that when a woman gets such a gift, she's moichel, we'll say over here also. Hoyel va'asa oisa shutav ben abanim v'loy michas. But she can say, no, I want my ksuba. She received the gift, ibda ksuvasa. I want to say something very clear over here, guys. When it says here, ibda ksuvasa, it doesn't mean she loses her ksuba. It means that the shibud that the ksuba has on all of the husband's property that he's giving as a gift, her shibud came first. She's moichel the shibud. She's not moichel the ksuba. See, in halacha ches, she's getting everything. She's getting the ksuba on steroids. Here she's getting karka kulshu. Could be this woman had a ksuba worth $1 million, or even the normal ksuba, and she's getting a karka kulshu. It's worth less. It's not that this is the ksuba, because of the chashivus that he made her like a son. She's moichel on the shibud. Just add that word, as you'll see, and therefore she cannot be traded from those nachas. Avo, but there's a chiyuv on the man to give his wife a ksuba. The nechasim sheyivayu le'achar achar elu le'telas mehem ksubas. Halacha yud. Kosav lo imohen metaltalin bilvad. Now, guys, karka and metaltalin Can't compare one with the other. It's about how she feels cherished by her husband. How does she feel? Wow, that he gave her a piece of land. Even though to the sons he gave much more, to her less, but land. The moment, even if he included his wife, but she gets a chelik of the metaltalin, she does not feel that chashuva in his eyes. She will not be moichel the shibud on the ksuba. This is all umden of the chachamim. It's amazing. If anything that's verbalized normally works, nothing is being verbalized. Or if the husband, the gifter, keeps a piece of land, not giving it all away. It's a whole different psychology. It's when is she, wow, my husband is giving everything away. And to whom? To his kids and to me. Didn't give everything away. He kept for himself culture, doesn't make a difference. It changes the nature of it. Then ksubasa kayemas means that the shibud of the ksuba doesn't change. Now comes another din, guys. Midoi raisa, you can only collect the ksuba from karka. After the Gemara was closed, from the times of the earlier Go'anim, because of Golus, prior to Golus, every Jew had a piece of real estate. That was the way of the world. And not only because God gave the land to the Jewish people. Stop, when you have people living in a country for a certain amount of time, buying land is very difficult. But after a while, it can take, like in America, 1 generation, 2 generations. And then once you buy land, if you have the seichel never to sell it, it's going to go be Yerusha. When there is Golus, what's the biggest problem with Golus? You're told you have to go from here to there. You can't take your land with you. So Golus made a new reality that even who are honest and hardworking, God blesses our endeavors. We didn't have, it was so common that people did not have land that we cannot allow that a ksuba can only be collected from land. Many people died without having land. It became the norm, not the exception. Prior to that, the norm was every family has land. A person passes away, he leaves a home. So the Go'anim said that a woman can collect her ksuba even from a taltal. That changes his halacha. Now we say that if he only was meshayim a taltal in kol shu, ksubasa kayemes. Because why did my husband keep a piece of the taltal? In other words, the point is, it's not that she was moichlet from everything else. Once she's not misalik her shibud, then she can even get it from that which was gifted. I just want to repeat something we learned between Min Chamaydev yesterday. But going back to what we learned yesterday, that normally for every transaction you need to have a kinyan. One of the transactions for which you don't need a kinyan is mechila. It's all about mechila. In other words, no, she never made a kinyan. It's den das, but where's the kinyan? You don't need to make a kinyan like Rambam when you're meichel a shibud, when you're meichel a chayv. And to know, number one, it's a big machlokes rishonim. Number two, the Tosfos in Sanhedrin, which is the main source of all of this, challenges this din from the fact that it says in the Gemara that every time 2 litigants make a pshara in a beis din, they have to make a kinyan. And Tosfos asks, isn't a pshara mechila? What's pshara? Pshara is a mechila. Once I think, you owe me 500. You claim you owe me 100. When they make a pshara, each party is going to be moichel. And everyone holds pshara needs a kinyan. So Tosfos says that's because they make the kinyan prior to knowing what the pshara is going to be. That's why if you don't make a kinyan, you're not really giving the power to the beis din. When you know like she knows what her shibud is. Whenever you know what you're being moichel, whenever you know exactly, I'm being moichel X amount of money, Yitaka Rambam says you don't need a kinyan. And why don't you need a kinyan? Because a kinyan is needed. An act of kinyan is when something is going from one domain to the other. And we learned that mechila is siluk. I'm just removing myself from something. I'm not transferring something. To be mesalik yourself, you don't need to have a kinyan. Okay, coming back over here. Let's go back to what we learned. And what did we just say above? In such a case, the woman is Michael the Shibud. At that moment, you understand what happens? It's no longer his. Why? We're speaking about a son, Danny, that did not have sons. So who does that land go back to? Goes back to the father, right? As we're going to learn in Halachas Nachalas. And the Rambam is just reiterating that even when a woman is moichel, she's only moichel the shibud the ksuba had on the landed property. She's not moichel the ksuba itself. So now that the husband has new land, even if it is this land that he gifted, she'll be toidefit from it. She only lost her schus to be toidefit because the husband doesn't have anything. Now that her husband or the father gets back that chelik of the matana, she's going to be toidefit. Halacha yud beis haroitza lihinase, a woman who desires to get married. Another umdana. What happens when you get married? A woman, everything she owns is brought into the marriage. A woman doesn't want to bring it into the marriage. What do they do today? They write a prenup. What did they do then? She writes, because for kol nechasel, she wrote all her belongings prior to marriage, either to her son or to another person, and then she gets married. And now she gets divorced. Or now the husband dies. Guys, going forward, matanasa betela. Umdana. That means that she's called a mavrachas. Mavrachas means a woman who is having her property be run away from her husband, but she doesn't want to give it to the recipient indefinitely. It's an umdana. It's just like we learned yesterday. You can give a matana dani lisman nesuyim. We even learned that I can give a tanai by a gift. It's until the life of someone.
It comes back to her.
It goes back to her. The loikasva call, because she wrote everything. But loikasva call nechasel el lavich mebayla. He just doesn't want her to get hold of it. Ubemele ucheshetiyem tzricha lahem. But when she'll need it, no, this is implicit in the agreement. Then it goes back to her, and therefore, it may say he b'chayil bayla. But if she predeceases him, that means she never took it back. No, it's not. That's the whole point. That's why she did it. It is a gift. It's a gift like up until a point. All of the above is only because she wrote a matana to someone else, all of her belongings. Even though she did not say what she's doing, you have the umdana. But the moment of shira klum, even only metaltalin, then we don't interpret things into it. Matanasa kayemes. And therefore, now, guys, everyone has the ability, right, Rabbi Chen, when you give a gift, to be mefarish. When you're giving a gift, I'm giving a gift only when I'm married. And if she would have written that, even if she gave a gift to a little bit, then when the marriage is over, she'll get it back. Here we're speaking about umdana. And just to appreciate that umdana goes against the klal of dvarim shemalei. So it has to be very clear. Halacha you'll give. Whenever a person is giving over all of his property, let's just give an example. Halacha Yud Beis, a woman gave all of her property and she's going to get it back when the husband, let's say, dies or divorces her. So the din is, it's not that it wasn't a real gift. It was a real gift. And during the time of her marriage, while the matana was standing, the recipient eats all of the produce and he'll never have to give it back. Forget about umdanas. Like we learned yesterday. Another case. You're sending articles from Chutz La'aretz. And you say, Yitnu Eile Lebanai. Give it to Banai. Guys, Banai in can have two meanings. You can say Banai means my male sons. You can say Banai means my children, kinder. So we say the umdana is that when a person uses, when it comes to sending a gift, when you're traveling, right, you're in the airport and you have the seichel, come bring back your chevra gift. Buy a gift to everyone. That's a normal, healthy person. You meant to everyone. Now, another detail. Sometimes you have to have an umdana from the items that you bought. What did you buy for whom? There's a umdana. Meaning, he gives an example. If you buy svarim, if you buy clay mulchama, people can jump. Maybe these things change with the culture. Could be. But I'm saying if it's clear that in this culture, this is for guys, then that's what he meant. And clay meshi. Today we're living in a world that men are meshuga. They can also be like Biblech in this. Hatzavuyim. Ooh, it's colored silk. Wow, cashmere. Then it was the labonois. Or the chalizov. Chalizov means golden bracelets. Today you go to a shul over here, Allah gave it bracelets. By the Rambam, it was worn by women. Necklace, bracelets. Allah.
So that, in other words, if you're living in such a society, you're not lois and aboris. Now, what about, now here comes the puncher. The im ru'uyim l'scharim v'lenekeves. Yit lois and mazcharim. Why? Because there's a rule that date shel adam kreve yoisel b'noi. That's what the Maggid Mishnah writes. And again, is this a cultural thing? Does this change with time? Until today, just to be honest, some people feel they have to have a son. Some people, if they don't have a son, they're bothered. Their name is going to be perpetuated. So people don't care. I don't know if this is totally on the culture or if this is a halach. Another thing, Danny, I just want to clarify. The beginning of halacha Yud Daled does not change. When a guy sends gifts to his children, he never means sons and not daughters. Never. He means children. When you're dividing something, what we don't know is lav dafka that it has to be all the same amount. Even though we have to be careful not to show favorites. Sometimes the kid says, "Why did I get this when my brother or my sister got that?" Okay, the father had no seichel, so have seichel. But if you're dividing the items, and this item can either be it's gender neutral, then you give it to the son. As long, I'm saying, if there is another item to give to the daughter. Okay, let's leave it at that. You didn't even say for whom. Then you're not loisam b'noisav, because these things are only girl things. That he sent it to his daughters. Or listen to this: his daughters are married. So if a guy sends a gift, and he has daughters and sons that are married, and these are things that are they're for women. Who did he have in mind? To your daughter who's married, or to your daughter-in-law? The Rambam writes, "Yinatlu oisem nesheibanov shahadas noita shalahem shalach."
And he clearly said at the beginning, no,
not over here. Here it's tam. No. Here you sent a gift. First, if I don't say no, the continuation is that if I send an item stam. We say that if it's something used for women, he didn't even send it to his sons. Then the next question is, if it's one article, he didn't mean to divide it, and you have a married daughter and a married daughter-in-law. If not, you would not be your daughter-in-law. You met your daughter-in-law before you met your daughter. You can't relate to it? Oh, I love my daughter-in-laws. But over my daughter?
Only if they're married. If they're single, then you mean your daughter's over your daughter.
Oh, for sure. But I'm saying they're married. Where did we learn in the Gemara? That if a guy goes Shabbos by Erev, we learned, right? That if a guy goes to spend Shabbos with his married daughter, he is going to be there for the whole Shabbos. So he went away from that chutzah. And if he goes to his daughter-in-law, he knew the whole time that she might kick him out. So you have to know how to put that together with this. Yeah, it doesn't seem to fit. Halacha tezva. Hamasi b'noi hagadol l'psula b'bayis. Another umden adas. Now this is something, again, this I can tell you, this is not shaykh today. People used to build a home, or they used to designate a house to celebrate a wedding. And the norm was that when you marry your eldest son to a psula, the kavana of the tata was to give away that house to a son. That's the kavana, even though he never said that. And the son owns it. And now the question is, how much does he own it? If it's a 2-story home, or if there's some other kalim in the home, it's gavaldik. Hamasi b'noi agadol l'psula babayis. The din is that even though nothing of this was said, kana habayis. Many things. It has to be the first marriage of the son. Obviously, if she's a psula, it means it's the first marriage for her. And another thing, it must be the first child's chasana that you're making. It's an overwhelming experience. And look at all this. The father did not explicitly say, no, not that room. The Rambam writes. That what? That shemeroiv simchase ve'avosam gomar v'yikno abayis shaharei loishir boy la'atzmei klum.
Like, I want to tell you how much to appreciate for me the Torah, because das balabatim is where I'm at. With mamash can go the other way. That's why the Torah has to educate. I would go the other way. That if I keep something for me, it almost sounds like this I want and keep the rest. No, I'm not yet generous enough to give it all. I'm still a nechben behema, but at least yachloiko. Here we're saying the opposite. The moment I'm a yesh, if I didn't say I'm giving it to you, the presumption is ich ben taka yesh. Well, if I kept nothing for me. Lefikach im, now you know what Mashir means? Even if you were Mashayed only a small pach. In other words, that's a metaltalin, like kana bayis. Yichad loy bayis or kleya bayis, if when you designate the house for the wedding, you explicitly say, guys, I'm designating the house and everything in it. Or if forget about you said that one keli is mine. Many people need storage houses. The houses were very little. If we know that in this house there's a room that won't be used for the wedding because it is currently your storage room, then you will only be kleiner, the kid, the kleyabayis, avalabayis lekon. Halacha tes zayin. What happens if the guy was miyachid clear the house and the second story? Bayis kana aliyah lekon. That's the again. That's what the Rambam begins to say. That's the way it works. You said you're going to get married. You're going to use the house and the porch. Means where they did the chuppah today. It's while you're doing the wedding. Meaning sheduchim means engaged, just to know what it means, which is what we call today engaged. Not erusin, which is done under the chuppah. What today we call they're engaged. This is what happens, right? The parents are asking each other, and the guy says, I'm going to give kach v'kach. And then the son gives the kedushin to the daughter. You know what happens? You know what it means, guys? It's amazing. And who was kaina, Daddy? The children, the young couple, they already acquired everything that was promised. What do we call that? We call that the tanoim today. They're about to get married. This is not the shidduchim. They're about to get married. And what are you giving? What are you giving? The parents made an agreement. Only ba'amira. He gives marriage. Both of the parents really gave it. But from when do they acquire it? Not from when the commitment was made. You know why? To whom was the commitment made? The commitment was not made for the son. The commitment was not made for the daughter. The commitment was made for the couple. You only become a couple when you're doing nisuin. Shkola goes on the parents. It was for them to be married. No, he's gifting it to the couple. And another detail. For this amira, for this commitment to be binding, the guy says, a 10-yard test. No, because it's only if you had that money in the account. We're not speaking about an ethical commitment. We're speaking about a legal binding kinyan.
When does it go to their possession?
From when they do nasuyin. From when they do nasuyin. It's amazing. However, that type of kinyan may never be documented. You should know that there is a choiv that's documented, and there's something that's not. There's a big nafkamina about whether someone can be toirev, and even if someone documented it doesn't have the power of a shtar. The type of commitment that's the amira makes it binding. The amira makes it binding. When they get married, has a din of something that was transferred without it being documented. That's different. It's not this halacha. Lefikach einam, I'm going to put a chaf, even though my Rambam it says a base. Einam kishtar, in order for you to be able to be toired. No, it's not that level. Halacha yudches. Here we go. What has to be returned if a marriage is dissolved? So here we're not speaking about Nasuyin, here we're speaking about Kedushin. And let's say a guy didn't give her a ring, a guy gave her 1,000 dinner. Guys,
Guys, ein hakedushim chayzrim lo oilam. Elo hareim atone gemura she'ein lo chazara. However, the kedushin was valid, and they nullified. Now, by the way, I want you to know that you know how you nullify the kedushin through a get. But what happens if we discover that it's kedushin toys? A woman's husband traveled, right? There's a lot of leniency. Even one aide, even a woman can testify the husband died. She's not an aguna. The new guy comes, he gave her kedushin, and thank God, before they got married, we discovered in Ramashal that she's an Eishes Ish. In other words, the kedushin was not even chal. Kedushin not even chal, then the money goes back. Then choizin and amoy. That's called kedushin toys.
What about if you find out she's an epileptic or something like that?
Anytime that you won't need a get. Anytime you won't need a get, if you don't need a get, that's called kedushin toys. If you need a get, then the money doesn't go back. That's the rule. By today, by epileptic, you'll need a get. You'll need a get.
Yeah. That's not what toys.
No. It's just grounds to claim that I was tricked. It's just not I don't like her. Tell me I don't like her. It's not enough. I'll pay Allah. I mean, you don't like her. Learn how to like her. Halacha. Huh? Yeah. Okay, right. No, it's Kabbalah. Right? Just to know, guys, a rule. We don't pass like Rabbi Akiva. We say that whenever you're Makadosh a woman with whom there's an Isur Kares, certainly Mislas Bezdin, Kedushin is not Toifus. Everyone knows you cannot be Makadosh your sister. Everyone knows that. We don't say Kedushin Tois. We say you wanted to help your sister. She has pride. So you did it. You're giving her a gift. You knew. It's not a toast. Amois Matono. Yes, correct. Weird family. There's many other weirder cases, but the Torah has to speak to the weird. Unlike Kedushin, what about gifts that you send? The base chama means, like today, guys. Today means your kala. You're sending a gift to your kala. You're sending it to the house. We're very careful when it comes to gifts. I want you to know we're careful because if a man like even today, flowers is different. We try to do something and you send it to the house from the people. If you give her a gift and it's in front of Adam, could be you did Kedushin. Bein meruben, bein mu'atim. Doesn't matter how much. Bein she'achal sham su'udas eres and bein she'lo yachal. Whether you joined, bein she'meisu, bein she'meisehi. No, Danny. Until now, it's the Kedushin, what you used for the Kesef Kedushin. Now, you could have used a pruta. You used $1 million. What was used for the Kedushin never goes back. This is not what you're using for Kedushin. Now that you're Mekudeshes, they used to wait 12 months. Now you're sending gifts. It's different. Those gifts, if he was the one that retracted, Yachseru Hasiv Loinus Kulam, you know what doesn't have to give back one thing? Food that was already eaten. When it says Chutz min ha-maichel va-mashka, I want to make it clear. It's Maichel and Mashka that were not yet consumed. If that mashka is still there, those gifts were given because we're going to get married. This is not the Kedushin. And if the marriage is not going to happen, no, we're not done yet. I'm not done yet because the Rambam is writing all types of breaking that happened through death or happened from him. We'll see soon into halachas if she broke it. 1 second, but before we get halacha chav beis. This
is all post Kedushin.
Yes, post Kedushin. And kol shchem that it goes back. Certainly it goes back.
Before Kedushin.
Sure.
The ring goes back.
Sure. Not the ring, Danny. We don't give rings before marriage. We have
a lot of people in the world do.
Okay, say it. We're very careful with the ring. I know, but yeah, it goes back. I'll be Allah. Absolute. That's the din, because you're not using it for kedushin. That's called umana. Again, this is what you gave the gift. No, you gave it because you're going to marry her. If you're not going to marry her, you're not giving it. Now, what happens if those kalim were used? They got worn out or they got lost. Just like food that was already eaten. See, if it was already eaten, you don't have to pay it back. If they were used, eino mishtalmin. But if they are kayamin, then chayzer hakoil. And v'goyvo islam bebezdin. You never said that. Umdana shahadavar yedua shalishochem ela derech noi. Derech noi means you're making a complimentary gesture. It's like, however, halacha dalid chazre hi boy You know what? If she stopped it, everything has to go back. She has to pay back. No, makes sense. That afilo amaychel v'amashke in the sentence. No, how much does he have to pay? She gets to pay the lower, because the cheap guy. That's why she broke off with him. He bought it over there where they sell here. There's many markets without mentioning names. They sell you product B for the price of A plus. So you're paying a sentence betzoil. She only has to pay back 4. And the final halacha, like this. She also called and you made what we call today, you made a engagement party, and then you know what happens, Danny? The only question is, who's going to believe how much was spent? He's not believed. Like when someone is a nigzal, remember that din, someone's guzzled from me, I make a shvua, and I can, as long as it's shaykh that I own that, the gazlan will have to pay for it. Here we don't believe him. Yes, have Adam.
No receipt back.
You need receipt. Because but if he can have that ayah, how much he paid, all of that money will be returned to him.
Shkoyach.